The American people are not going to be exposed to the truth. Every day there's a new lie. They're cultivating Republican opinion for the new Cold War very successfully. It's very frightening to me that my government is using this situation to try to push us closer to war with a country that very few Americans understand and very few Americans have visited. I don't think the U.S. actually has the ability to completely disentangle itself from a powerful country like China right now. We've seen many, many stories in the New York Times, other papers like Politico in the past 2 days about how China is advancing disinformation. And the American people are not going to be exposed to the truth. Every day there's a new lie. It's advanced under the banner of supposedly free and independent media. I'm an American journalist. I've been working for almost 20 years in the US media. And, I don't present myself as a China expert, but I'm an America expert, and I know the institutions and the people that have been driving us into endless war for the last 20 years. And in some cases, I know them personally. So that gives me a big advantage to investigate these kinds of stories. I have not been to China. I would have to go to Wuhan and see for myself and speak to doctors and speak to people to know the response. But none of the people who present themselves as experts in the US have done this. And many of them have reasons to want to turn up the heat on China, to escalate with China. Well, some come from think tanks, which are funded by the arms industry, and some are directly funded by the State Department as well. But the point is, this is a political campaign to turn up the new Cold War. They're cultivating Republican opinion for the new Cold War very successfully. And so you can see very clearly the State Department leaks information to the media. The media spins the story to the public. And immediately we started to see more negative coverage of China. These stories, various people from the NGO sector are quoted as sort of experts, but as I mentioned before, who are not, in fact, experts, who are activists who are paid by the US government. And then politicians issue calls for new policies of militarism and extreme hostility to China. We started to see more US interest in advancing kind of human rights narratives about what China was doing to the Uyghurs, for example. The conflict in Xinjiang has been going on for many, many years. So why did we all of a sudden start to hear about the supposed plight of the Uyghur people in 2019? So why is this happening now? Last year, compared to this year, I think 70% of Americans see China as the greatest threat to the US. Last year, it was lower than 50%. So propaganda works. Because of the widespread hatred that they have stirred up against China, we will not have this protective equipment that we need. The only way out of this is through cooperation, because unfortunately, we live in a globalized world where we're all interdependent. I don't think the US actually has the ability to completely disentangle itself from a powerful country like China right now. Explosion of coronavirus in the US was the shock that hardline elements in the national security state were looking for to escalate the Cold War with China and maybe move it closer to a hot war. We don't know how things will turn out. They don't have any means to directly wage conventional warfare with China, but what we're seeing is the same thing: hybrid warfare, economic war, banning Huawei, imposing tariffs, accusing China of massive Nazi-level human rights violations, moving more carrier groups into the South Pacific. These sorts of things we'll see more and more of. This is actually the most terrifying confrontation, and it could potentially turn nuclear if something goes wrong. So I think it's really important to oppose it, and that's why I'm doing the work I'm doing. We face a lot of pressure for it. We faced fake lawsuits. Our writers are constantly insulted on social media. But the one thing that people cannot do to us is accuse us of factual inaccuracies or debate us. In Southeast Washington, D.C., agree with my opinions. And they understand that a country that's spending billions and trillions of dollars on an empire abroad is unable to bring them anything at home. And our readers are mostly American. We are supported by the American people and people across the West.